We're here today to talk about real estate.
Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Unlimited podcast. My name's Sierra Steinmetz.
Bryan Schuby.
I'm Kari Steele.
Bill Jones.
And we're on the Jones home team.
And this is episode 29, and we'll dive right in here. Shuby's going to kind of recap a little bit what we went into last week. We're talking short sales, foreclosures. Sierra's going to kick us off talking about the spring market, right? Is that something like that? All right. Kari's got marketing, and I've got some fun things with interest rates. Not just, we always talk about interest rates in the U.S., but what's the rest of the world look like? So housing prices and what the interest rates there. So if you think it's bad here, just wait. So, all right, Sierra, what you got?
All right. So just a quick little glimpse into spring trends for the market in 2025. As we've said 1,002 times, interest rates are probably going to stay pretty steady over the next couple months because we don't really foresee a whole lot of changes happening. And everyone always talks about spring. Maybe, I'm not sure in the consumer world, let us know. But in the real estate world, everyone knows spring's usually a really good time for especially listings.
Right.
If you're on that side of the sale. Realtor.com and Zillow say the best time to sell is between mid-April and May. One of them leans more towards the end of May, and one of them is more mid-April. When we had been talking about it a few months ago, like April 13th through the 19th, that week.
Yeah, that week's pretty hot.
Is the most popular and best time to sell. Their stats show that there's roughly a 1 to 1.5% increase in sales price during that time between the mid-April to May-ish time frame. So if you're ready to list your home, now might be a good time. But I just feel like that's also kind of when we see things start to ramp up. I feel like the past couple weeks I've been really busy with just like appointments and kind of getting things in order.
I was going to say there's been a lot more listings popping up in the MLS as well.
Yeah, it was very cold. Like the traditional cold winter really came back then as far as for things just really stalling out there January, February, it seemed.
Yeah,
so
it's like everyone was kind of waiting because no one really wanted to go through with any of that at the time because it was harshly cold and just not great for traffic or anything like that. And now everyone's like, all right, let's do this. And everyone's ready to go. So hopefully that brings a good spring market for us, locally at least.
all right.
And so the market right now, in my opinion, I think is starting to balance out quite a bit. Sometimes leaning more towards buyers a little bit, at least in the sense of if you're not in the house on day 2, it's not going to be off the market by day 3. So
I love those days of that. Yeah, day 1, 10 offers, and
right.
You can't even get in there.
And don't get me wrong, there still is that for sure.
Yeah.
But I feel like there is a little bit more leeway. It's getting closer to like a couple weeks before they're really all just getting swooped up after they go on the market. So that's helping out buyers, I think, a little bit, in my opinion. They've got more negotiating power, stuff like that. We've discussed that a few times, but I do think buyers are starting to get a little bit more leeway in transactions than they have been the past couple years. So that's a great thing, especially with first-time home buyers. Right now we've got welcome home funds rolling out, stuff like that. Which are all great grant programs and stuff. So it's kind of just shaping up to be a really good time for buyers and sellers, honestly, in my opinion, on both sides. But that being said, price reductions in days on market have had some increase this year so far.
For sure. From the last couple of years, it's way down or way up, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, by day 2, it's all offers by tomorrow at noon. That's how it's been. Now we're at least maybe making it to like day 7 or 8,
right.
Which is good.
Which is good. It gives everybody a chance to breathe then at that point then too, to where, I feel horrible for buyers when it's like, okay, there's a house, you want to write an offer? Like that's a terrible feeling to
especially
put on them.
if they're a first timer too.
Yeah.
And they've got 3 showings.
Never looked
at
a house. Here you go. Are you buying?
It's like, okay, well, let me know what you want. We finish up at 7. I need to know by 7:30 what you want to do.
Or like preparing those offer, like you're getting the offer ready before you've even seen the house. That way when you get there, if they're like, we want to see it, we want to see it, we want to make an offer, and you're standing in the kitchen before the next people walk in, and you're trying to get that offer.
Trying to get all the info in. Yeah. And that's especially with first time buyers. I hate having to put them in that position because that's a huge investment and it's your first time, and it should be nothing that feels like rushed and it's already stressful.
Yeah,
and
then adding to it.
I'm like, I'll figure it out right now. Like I hate that. But like I said, it's starting to kind of equal out a little bit, which is good. And then, the last thing I wanted to bring up, climate. This was an interesting stat I saw. generally in our areas, when it's starting to get warmer, school's getting closer to being done, we're getting out of that seasonal depression because it's not 2 degrees anymore. People
the
are ready
blues,
to go.
Gone.
And so then we see a rise in our market and a little bit busier and whatnot. But there was a stat that said in Phoenix, I believe, Arizona, last year, like mid-November, when the like warmer temperatures started to subdue a little bit and it was a very mild climate, that was the best like time of the year for their entire real estate market. So I just thought that was interesting because like for us locally in Ohio, it's like now's the time of year into summer and whatnot. And but like everywhere else, I mean, it's already 80 degrees, 90 degrees some places. Right. Yeah.
Well, that makes actually another podcast I just listened to, different markets. So like the snowbird places like the Florida, like hot, middle of summer, for us is good, but down there, everybody's getting out of Dodge. Nobody's there. Same thing I think in Arizona, like what you're kind of talking, where if it's getting cooler here, might be a good time to go shop. Not a good time to go shop there because that's where everybody's looking for those places. So.
Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting. I've never thought about it that way in other places where climate might actually have a little bit of an effect on that. But
so if you're moving to Phoenix, Arizona, you want to start shopping there when it's extremely hot.
Yeah, 100 degrees, and nobody else is there, wants to be there. So same thing I think with Florida. So.
Yeah, for Ohio, it would be December, like right before Christmas or January.
Nobody wants to buy then, middle
or
winter.
move then. If you're in Phoenix, it's 100. You don't want to be moving boxes out of a truck or
and we just had
your candles are melting.
We had people from Florida buy a house here, and they were like, well, we can do something that's like a post-closing, like in a couple months, because one, we don't really want to move in the winter, and two, it just made no sense for the situation. But I was like, yeah, I get that. I wouldn't want to have to trek all the way up here when it's the winter that we had this year.
And maybe they want to get out of Florida when it's getting to be 100 degrees and muggy. And I don't know so much not even just the weather, but just the whole market in general, I think coming alive. So the uncertainty in the market with everything we've talked about previously, interest rates, everything, I think an uncertain mind is just very cautious. A lot of people just don't want to do something when they don't know, not that anybody knows what the future is, but when there's just so much uncertainty, we're hoping after the election, but I guess at this point, it's just getting to the point, rates are what they are, inventory is what it is, are you buying a house or not? Yep. So people are going to have to decide. Well, cool.
So that's what I got.
Love it. All right. Well, who wants to go next? Ladies,
I can.
What do you got? All right.
Yeah, Kari, I know last week you had talked about, calling us before it's too late. So I guess I just kind of wanted to follow up with that then as far as two topics. Obviously, short sales and then foreclosures, what that actually looks like. So I guess the option of call us before it's too late, short sale would be an option for that then. So I just wanted to kind of go over the differences between the two options there. So what is a short sale and what is a foreclosure and what do those look like? So a short sale is typically initiated by the homeowner instead of by the bank, whereas a foreclosure is typically initiated by the lender. The process as far as a short sale, the homeowner with lender approval sells the property for less than the outstanding mortgage balance. Whereas a foreclosure, typically the bank takes the property back. So the lender takes ownership of the property after the homeowner defaults on their mortgage payments and sells it to recover the debt. As far as different things that could, as credit obviously has an impact with both, but what does that look like? Credit with a short sale typically, again, still has a negative impact. However, it's usually less severe on your credit score than a foreclosure. Foreclosure typically, I think, is 7 years? Kari, I think we had talked about last time.
It stays on your credit.
It stays on your credit for 7 years. I think when I was just doing some quick looking, the short sale, it stayed on there for like 2 to 4.
I think it's at least 2.
So it's not near as bad as a foreclosure, but it also gives you the ability to purchase a home sooner if something like that were to happen then. Timeline, I thought that I usually kind of see this a little bit different, but I can understand where they're coming from. As far as the short sale, they had that it typically can take a little bit longer just because of the negotiation with the lender to see what they are willing to accept and not accept. Whereas the foreclosure, obviously the bank already has taken that property back, so they already know what they're willing to do.
All right.
And then other considerations with the short sale, homeowners typically still live in the property, so it's not, beat up or distressed typically as much as a foreclosure. Obviously, I know we've all been in some pretty bad foreclosures, animal feces smeared everywhere.
Oh, God, yeah.
Smells or
Kitchens
whatever.
ripped out, bathrooms, a mess.
Plumbing gone.
Yes.
So, like I said, as far as the other considerations, that would be a big one then as well. So you're not getting into maybe as much of a project as you would be with a foreclosure property. So, like I said, I really just wanted to touch base on the short sale, and then on the foreclosure side. Obviously, if you are in that situation, I would reach out to your agent and just kind of start the conversation of, hey, what do I need to do here? Like I said, the short sale, if you are defaulting on your payments and you need help from the bank, obviously, again, you need to, as the homeowner, need to initiate that conversation with the bank to figure out what exactly you need to do.
And start that conversation sooner than later.
Yeah, don't wait until you get the foreclosure notification from the bank and then decide you want to try a short sale. And then
which you still can do. We'll circle back to that. Yeah, I got a bunch to talk about with that.
And then one of the other things that you want to keep an eye on with the short sale, I did see that occasionally I guess talk with your bank and figure out what you can get negotiated out, because sometimes the bank can't hold the difference from what is still owed to the balance against you as a loan. So just make sure, I would say most of the time it seems like, again, we haven't been in this situation a whole lot, but the couple instances I have, the bank has, said, hey, look, we'll just take our losses and it is what it is. So just
with the short sale?
With the short sale. Yeah. So just make sure, while you're negotiating that out with the bank, that they're not going to hold that remaining balance against you as a loan or anything like that. So, yeah, but like I said, that's kind of what I had. I just wanted to kind of quickly just talk about, like I said, the difference between the short sales and the foreclosures. I don't know if you guys have anything else or experiences. Or
like you said, depending upon every person's situation, the outcome's going to be different. So really just making sure, like you said before, you get that foreclosure notice before you start getting behind on your payments when you foresee that there's going to be an issue. So if it's not going to correct itself in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, call your lender.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'd probably
just
say
the first couple months.
Yeah, if you're starting to fall behind within the first couple of months, that's probably a good idea instead of waiting till 6 months later or a year later or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest misconception I get from people all the time is, what is the short and short sale? Like, they're not sure, like, the short doesn't make sense. So the short would be the difference between what the bank is owed and what they're getting then.
Not short as in time.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes
it's definitely not short.
A year or a year and a half or however long.
Yeah. So it's not short like it's going to be fast. It's short. The bank is agreeing to be shorted what they're owed then. So just for easy numbers, if there's a $100,000 mortgage still owed on that property, a note on that, the bank will agree to sell it sometimes for less. They don't have to agree to anything. They're owed $100,000. You signed on a dotted line. Give me $100,000.
Yeah.
You are owed that. You owe that to the bank. But if you short them and they agree to that, so then maybe they'll take $90,000, $80,000, $70,000, $50,000 on that. They're still most time insured. You know what I mean? Most time they have that insurance that the home buyer is paying, up front, that they're going to get that back. That difference, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, the short, and it's not a short process, but is the short is the difference that the bank is getting.
And then same with foreclosure too. There's redemption and all that stuff going into that process, where the foreclosure can also take a very long time from when it starts to when it's actually official and that house is up for sale by the bank then after it's actually foreclosed on, which I feel like we've all had people before that were looking on like the foreclosure websites, but it wasn't really the real foreclosure website.
Pre-foreclosure stuff.
Pre-foreclosure, and it's something that's not even actually gone into foreclosure yet, and we have no idea where they're getting that info from, stuff like that. And yeah, not to mention, until it's actually listed for sale, there still could be periods or opportunities for the purchaser, the owner, to be able to try and
catch up their payments.
The owners might not even know they're in pre-foreclosure.
Right, yeah.
Somebody's ring.
It's
I'd like to buy 123 Main Street. Yeah.
Which does happen. Yeah. You check into the house and it's like, what are you talking about? No, I don't want to sell my house, but if they're going to lose it. So you kind of mentioned then too, Bryan, what the process is starting, the foreclosure process versus the short sale process. And the bank, I'm sure we've talked about this in the past, but I'll just reiterate. It's the left and right arm at the bank then. So if the foreclosure process has started in the left hand, but then you're still trying to get something done in the right hand with a short sale, those departments don't talk. Like I've yet to find a bank where they'll work together. Like, okay, we have a buyer with the short sale terms. Everybody's on the guy at that desk is okay with it. But the foreclosure process, once that started, it's going. Then if it's August 31st, by God, you better have that short sale done before August 31st. I mean, I've had them up to the day where sometimes they've closed in time, sometimes they haven't. So, and if they don't, it's gone. So all that work, all that buyer trying for 6 months to get it bought, and that seller going through a million hoops and paperwork to try to get a short sale done. Nope. So you got to get it done in time. I've almost never had them extend that time out.
So I think that's like Kari and I were stressing that, if you're realizing you're not going to be able to make those payments,
right,
please, let
right
somebody
away.
know ASAP instead of waiting.
Yeah, which is hard. I mean, it's pride, it's everything. I mean, you don't want to give up on the house, but I mean, if it's happening, sometimes it's better just to, it's almost always better to get ahead of it than wait for it to be too late.
Because again, the consequences then, if you have your property gets foreclosed on and you can't buy a house for 7 years, whereas if you can do a short sale and, maybe have the chance to buy a house in the next 2 to 4 years instead of having to wait 7, I mean, that's a huge difference then as well. So.
Yep. And people all the time, well, can't you just talk to somebody at the bank? Or this doesn't make sense. I mean, it doesn't have to make sense. They have their process, they have their rules, they have the way they go by. So yeah, if you could get someone on the phone like, hey, let's be a human being and make this work for everybody. It's not that they don't care. They have their process, and that's how it works. So
yeah, the banks follow their own rules. They don't listen to anybody else.
Yeah. So we can advocate all you want, call whoever we want, but that we can't wave a magic wand and fix it. So nobody can. I don't care if you have an attorney or anything on that side. So. Cool. Anything else, Bryan?
No, that's all I got.
All right.
So.
Cool. Okay. I wanted to jump in here real quick, Kari. Okay, interest rates. So I got a big kick out of this. So everybody squawks about what interest rates are here in the U.S. And what they are comparative to house prices and things like that. So I don't know if you can even see them. I have to zoom in here. So if you go to Japan, you can get an interest rate of 1.82% right now. It actually was sub 1% for a long time. So the reason for that is they're fighting, what was it? They're fighting where we're worried about inflation. They're fighting deflation, and they have low inflation then. So they're trying to keep the rate down like they were, post COVID, I guess for us, they were trying to fight all that. So they're lowering their rates. So they've basically been at zero or sub-zero forever on their rate. Their interest rates turned into that. So their house prices, though, on average, still are significantly higher. So $337,000 again compared to us at just over $400,000. So we're about $100,000 ahead of them. But we're on average, again, this is maybe not right now data, 6.72%. They're at 0.37% when I was snapped this shot then too. So not a big difference in price. But go to the other end of the spectrum, then you go all the way to friendly old Argentina, with a 75.84% interest rate on a 20-year mortgage.
Whoa.
So if you don't like your 6% interest rate here, maybe getting close to 5 at some point, you can always go to Argentina or even Turkey at 41%.
Oh my gosh.
Average house price there, Argentina, $103,000, Turkey only $91,000. So
even still, that's
outrageous.
Wow.
So, and again, they're on the opposite end of the spectrum. They've got hyperinflation, kind of into their market then too. So they're really trying to slow things down or slow that hyperinflation down.
Multi-generational housing.
Right. So yeah, I went through a couple, Iran, 22, almost 23%, but the average house price is $63,000. Venezuela, 21%, average house price $26,000. If you want to move to Pakistan, Bryan, you can go 19% interest at $29,000 house. Where else we got? Ukraine, almost 18%, $68,000 on average. Russia, 15%, $87,000. So
I'd be
My
curious
brain.
to see what the inventory is and the
Yeah,
difference between the
true.
countries.
well, Bryan, I didn't pull
My
that
brain
much
says,
data.
all right, well, I want to literally go straight to the source and be like, okay, how much house can I buy for this number?
Right. And some of these, I didn't pull, none of the islands showed up or anything like that, because I would be trying to tell Kelly,
I was going to say, there's Jamaica, Guatemala. There's a couple
I didn't see the
on
housing
there.
prices, though. So I was like, Jamaica's only 8.7%
yeah.
then. But yeah, it was just kind of funny, the balance between what the rate was versus the house prices. Of this whole list I pulled, it was the U.S. and Japan by like head and shoulders above price-wise. Then Egypt, $29,000. It goes Japan, $337,000. Us, $417,000. So, but yeah, as far as the rates, really just stemmed on, are they looking at inflation? Are they looking at deflation? Some are looking at hyperinflation. Obviously, some of those ones with inflated rates are through the roof. But again, it always goes back to real estate's local. What's it? I think the rates in the U.S. are standard across the board. I don't think they vary state by state unless there's some special program.
Right.
It's basically what it's going to be. But
Do you feel like that should be? Like, do you feel like, and I hate to pick on them, but like Appalachia, do you feel like their rates should be less? because it's already a poverty-stricken area.
Maybe. I don't.
Or
Yeah,
vice versa.
Can't
like
say that I've actually thought of it.
very, high end.
But I think the house pricing would kind of fix that. Because if you're in a depressed area, the price is going to come down. So your 5%, 6-7% interest rate on $50,000 house versus a $500,000 house in Washington State.
Sure.
Your payment would be adjusted. So maybe the house prices would. I see what you're saying. Take into account that. I'm just wondering
if it should be even more.
Then you get into each state fighting each other, because already just like the little bit of tax rate difference from state to state, states kind of go to war with that, the income tax or the sales tax. So you start, if I can go to Montana and get a 3% interest rate, does that just start some kind of war with that then too?
City to city. I mean, there's or county to county, I should say.
Mm-hmm. So good question, Kari. I don't know. I'm not sure what the.
And then again, if you're driving rates down in one state, their inventory of their home's inventory is going to go down, which their prices are going to go up
right. From there. Yeah. This site was pretty cool. I think it's Numbeo. I don't know, but it had all kind of stuff like food prices in different places. That's awesome. Cost of living.
Were you geeking out? Were you?
I was on it for a few minutes, and I was like, "Holy cow, this is kind of cool."
Hypothetical life in this place.
Yeah, interest rates versus house prices was cool. I kind of stalled out there, but how accurate it is, I don't know. But it seemed to be pretty. I checked it a couple different ways, and it seemed to pull in good numbers. So interesting. So. Shub, if you're going to Argentina sometime soon, let us know and see if we can get you a better rate.
I don't think I am. But.
So no.
Cash is king there, apparently.
All right. I might save this for if we see how much time we have here. The couple of these for sale by owner sites. So going with the Michael Ketchmark, totally different topic here. Then and then there was a gentleman. What was his name? Mike Chambers, Boulder, Colorado, was trying to sell his house by himself. And ended up starting his own website. So I guess maybe we'll just save that for next week. But I'll kind of tease that now. So these big players nationwide, Ketchmark, as we all know, that August 17th change that happened in the real estate industry was from that big lawsuit that happened that he was kind of the driving force behind. Well, he immediately started his own for sale by owner website. It has all this traction. Now this guy in Mike Chambers in Boulder, Colorado has the whole Instagram page. He went from 0 to suddenly 17,000 followers and has all this stuff about how hard it was, and nobody would work with him on rates when, again, it's all negotiable. Commissions are completely negotiable. But lo and behold, what did he do? He started his own for sale by owner site immediately. He got this big following, the smartest way to sell your home. I'm like, oh great, let's see what this looks like. And you go there and it's I don't even know. It pulled up earlier, but
click on that link.
It wasn't very impressive there. Put in your email address. That's as far as you get. I don't know. And then he has this whole thing on investors and, put investment into stuff. So I just wonder how truly, these people are advocating for
the consumer,
the consumer, not, or they just immediately go to cash in, which I guess hats off for them for capitalizing on the social media publicity they get. But kind of crazy that we get these guys and gals trying to shake the whole industry and say how they think the market should be or how the industry should work, and then immediately start these things. And we've seen so many of these sites come and go, and I don't think any of the discount brokerage, even Redfin just got bought by Rocket, as a discount brokerage. So they haven't been profitable since they've been around, basically. So there's been tons of these. So we'll leave that for next week, I guess. So little tease there. So all right, Kari, what you got?
Well, real estate is a people-to-people industry. You have to know your consumer, you have to know your agent, you have to know the people you're working with. So spinning off of that, how do you market to your clients? How do you market yourself and explain to people, what you're doing outside of the cash-in that you just showed us? So I'm a chamber ambassador for our local Chamber of Commerce. They do a wonderful job, I think, here locally. As a brand ambassador, I want to publicly thank them for what they do for small businesses and businesses alike in Seneca County. I know it's super hyper focused, but if you're a listener and you're not in our area, check out your local Chamber of Commerce and see what they have to offer, because whether you're an agent or a banker, broker, inspector, you can benefit from your local Chamber of Commerce. Drop cards off, find out if there's a way to promote yourself through them, kind of some free advertising in that regard. But this specific thanks that I want to give to them is our local Chamber of Commerce put together a marketing and not all social media, but just how to market yourself, how to market your brand, how to market what it is that you're selling. And it could be a product, it could be a service. So to strengthen your personal sales and marketing, they the Chamber of Commerce, it worked with Spire Advertising, so a little plug for them, on focus, team, plan, and data. So not everybody has the same product or service that they're offering. So you want to make sure that you're specializing in what it is that you're doing. And you can go on social media and you can put stuff out there all day long. Just pop, feed. You're just putting stuff out there as fast as you can. But unless you're connecting with the other side of that, what you're putting out there is dead in the water. So the one thing that they said, and I put up the golden circle, this is directly from their presentation.
Let's say I missed this. So what, how, why? All
yeah,
right.
you had a lot going on that day.
Explain this, yeah.
So the golden circle of what, how, and why. What, everybody knows what their what is. That's your product or service that you're offering, okay? So that's really easy to put out there, and that's what most people put out there because it's the most obvious. I sell football equipment. So my football equipment is going to be everywhere. I'm going to show pictures of jerseys. I'm going to sell pictures of footballs or put pictures of footballs out there. I'm going to do a clip of me walking through my shop. Okay, that's my what. Obviously. And people know that they can come to my football shop and purchase, or my sporting gear shop or whatever, and purchase those items. The how is, how are they doing it? What sets them apart? So most people will trickle down into that and say, okay, I have a sporting goods shop. I'm selling footballs. This is why I sell football. My kid is in Little League football, and that's near and dear to my heart. So, here, right. I sell footballs. And then people in businesses, they tend to touch on that just a little bit. But then you get into your why. So that could overlap with my kids in football, but why are you so passionate about what you do? How do you sell that story to your clients, your consumers, your the general public? What is your brand and what do you do and what sets you apart? So few people know their why. So that's the why part. So you have to figure out what your why is. It's not about money. Money follows. What's that? The quote, like, you'll pick a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life or something like that. Mm-hmm. So
I love this job. I still feel like it's work, though.
I mean, yes, because it's not just the real estate. You're also moving 800-pound boilers from one location to another.
Getting the job done.
So where does that come into your brand strategy and awareness? Your logo, brand, and brand strategy is one thing, but you want to make sure that you're telling your story. So if you're not putting your passion and you're not connecting to the people on the other side of what you're putting out there, then you're literally just throwing stuff up against the wall and hoping it sticks.
Right.
So yeah, in closing, I just want to make sure that people check out their local Chamber of Commerce to see if there's, marketing tools and things that they can help them with getting their business either started, continuing to grow, or even a season of change. And then also just knowing that there are tools and resources outside of social media that you can do to help promote and find your brand. And also, if you don't know your why, maybe they can help you with your why.
I love this book here. Let's start with why. I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I've read it here. Then too, is it Simon Sinek? Yeah, Simon Sinek wrote this book. Then, if you haven't read that, and he's got another one that follows up with it, then too.
I probably need to read.
Yeah,
that.
So it basically talks about any business, any marketing, things like that. Start with your why. So you don't instead of selling. It's like the whole, selling the steak thing. You don't sell the steak, you sell the sizzle.
Yeah.
Or, but he would even go deeper, like go to like the heart of. It's been a while since I read it. Like the why would somebody want that steak? Why would they want that sizzle or that anything that would go along with it? So you have to get down to the core of, the why they would want it or why you want to do the job you're doing then. So
it's so easy just to keep putting stuff out there to stay relevant and to stay like, oh my gosh, it's Tuesday, I haven't posted anything. What can I post? And it's okay to have a strategy of like, okay, Monday through Friday, these are the posts that I do, but don't be afraid to throw your schedule off a little bit by doing something that's unique or personable or an experience or a topic that's in addition to what you would normally post.
Right. Well, then you were just talking in the office earlier then to was it Gary V? We were just talking. He just said, post all the social comments, just do it all. And it's like, yeah, that's amazing, but it is work though. I mean, it's still a job to be, you can post 100 things a day then, but anybody going to watch it if you put some time and thought and effort into it to make it good, I guess. Bryan and I are working on a killer short here that's just going to rock the world here.
We should have cut to that.
Oh, we
that
should. We'll bring that up next week.
It's not ready.
We'll tease that for next week too. Check back for that. It's going to be killer.
Write that down.
Yes, for sure. All right. Anything else, folks?
That's all I got.
All right. Cool. Well, hey, we got some teases for next week here. I feel good about that. We'll leave it there. That's episode 29. So if you're moving to Argentina or Japan, let us know. We'll find you a great agent. You can take care of, take advantage of those horrible or great interest rates. But check back then. Like, share, do all the fun things here, and we will see you next time.